Puppy mush time. There's no way around it. If you're breeding dogs, you gotta have a mush recipe. Puppy mush is the first step to transitioning your dogs to hard kibble. So there's no way around it. Today, I'm gonna show you an inexpensive base recipe, and I'm also gonna show you a super mush recipe. Because being an advanced breeder means we don't just hope our puppies survive, we set them up to thrive. So let's go over what you're gonna need. I like to make my puppy mush a batch at a time. So you're gonna need a big bowl. You're gonna need one of these stirrer thingies. You're gonna need a can opener. You're gonna need a stainless steel puppy mush tray, which you can get at bigbonebulldogs.com. Link is in the bio. And you're gonna need a grinder or a blender. If you don't have one, go get one. Remember, good breeders ain't cheap, and cheap breeders ain't good. Breeding dogs costs money, and you're gonna need lots of resources, which money gains resources. So if you're breeding dogs and you don't have money, that means you don't have resources, that means you shouldn't be breeding dogs. It's just irresponsible. Although, if those puppies need to eat and you gotta get some mush in them, what you can do is you can wet down the kibble and then you can get it to soften up that way. It's a lot longer of a process. It doesn't allow everything to mix as properly, so I don't recommend it. I recommend you get in a blender or a grinder of some sort, and also getting your advanced breeders t-shirt. Good breeders ain't cheap, cheap breeders ain't good. Then you're gonna need some baby oats. You're gonna need 100% real pumpkin. Not pumpkin pie mix, not pumpkin puree mix. 100% real pumpkin. There's an organic one too. Sometimes I get that one, but this is all they had, so this is what I got this time. Also, quinoa is another good substitute for the oats. I'm big on the ancient grains now. I've gotten away from rice and other types of grains. I only do ancient grains in my adults. So now I'm going to the only ancient grains in my mush recipe. That's why I use the oats. And puppy formula. And of course, this whole mush recipe starts with whatever kibble you're already using. And if you are using a high-end kibble, then my base recipe will be more than enough. I've whelped litters using just a base recipe before, and the puppies turned out fine. But don't forget our slogan, we like our puppies to thrive, not just survive. So I'm also gonna show you ways to boost up that mush and make a super mush. So let's start off with my base recipe. Like I said, I do it a batch at a time, and I do a 3-to-1 ratio. This does not have to be exact. As you progress and you make your own mush and you're serving it to your puppies, get a feeling that you wanna cut back on a little something or you wanna add a little something, go for it. But you should always be receptive to your puppies and what's going on right in front of you and make changes if you feel necessary. I do 3, this is a 16-ounce cup. I do 3 of these 16-ounce cups, ground up fine. All right, so now we have our 3 16-ounce cups of ground up kibble. Now we're gonna add our baby oats. Now I tend to do a little bit under the 16 ounces. I probably do like 14 ounces. I don't know, I just do it that way. So there you go. We got our oats added. Next ingredient is our 100% real pumpkin. Next ingredient is water, and this will complete our base recipe. About a gallon of water approximately, but you can add however much water you want to get the consistency that you desire. I recommend starting them off at a more thinner, watery consistency, but not too watery, because in the very beginning, these puppies are literally gonna go head into the mush. You don't want it so watery that now they're inhaling it up their nose and they could possibly aspirate, which can happen. So you want it thin enough that they can lap it in because they really don't have much for teeth at this point, but not too thin where they snort it in. So you gotta walk that line. As they progress, you can make it thicker, a little bit less water, and then eventually softened kibble, hard kibble, because that's the goal. So we're gonna add some water. And we're going to start mixing it. Now before I mix it up too much, let me show you some other things that you can add to make it a super mush. Formula. I do recommend adding formula for the most part. You can get away with the base recipe, but a little bit of formula is always good. Here's another tip. Like I said, I make it a batch at a time. You are going to store this in the refrigerator in between feedings. That next day, naturally, it's going to dry out a little bit. So what I like to do is make a fresh batch of formula, warm. Let me back it up here. It's going to get stored in the refrigerator, but you never want to serve your mush cold. So you're going to take your batch out of the refrigerator. You're going to take out however much you want, put it on a paper plate, put it in the microwave, 30, 45 seconds, warm it up. That's what I always do. The mush is going to dry out from being in the fridge. So each day, you're going back into your batch. I like to make a fresh amount of warm formula to add into the mush. It's going to warm it up. It's going to add some more fresh flavor that the puppy should be interested in. And it's just going to add all these more essential vitamins, nutrients, calories to your mush. So between warming it up in the microwave for 30, 45 seconds, adding some warm formula, and remixing that small amount and serving it is going to be the best way to go back into your batch and reserve it over the next day or two. Another thing I want to put out there is that this recipe, nothing's going to be exact. I'm not going to tell you to do exactly this or exactly that. Because when you do that, you start to worry because you start to wonder, does it have to be that? Did I put in enough? Or, oh man, I didn't put in enough of this. Don't worry. There's no reason to worry. This doesn't have to be exact. You just need your puppies to eat it and to get the nutrients and calories that they need. So your recipe does not have to be some exact recipe, like typically when you're making food for adults, for humans. They're not going to be picky. The taste does not have to be perfect. Recipes are perfect because you want to get the right taste for us humans. These puppies are going to eat this anyways, as long as you do a halfway decent job, and I think you will. So, how much formula? A heaping tablespoon. I just like to add a heaping tablespoon of formula. Like I said, I also add a little bit of formula each time I warm up some mush out of the batch. So that's another reason I only put a heaping tablespoon in the beginning. So now we're going to mix this. Get all this water absorbed up into the mush. There's still lots of ground kibble here in the bottom. All right, so now we got a good solid mush recipe. We got formula, we got our pumpkin, we got our oats, and we got our ground up puppy kibble. Why do we do pumpkin? Pumpkin is two different fibers. Pumpkin is something that's known as a stool corrector, meaning if your puppies have diarrhea, pumpkin is going to help. If your puppies are constipated, pumpkin is going to help. Pumpkin also tastes good and has a good smell that's going to make the puppies interested in the mush, which is kind of, is that number one? I don't know. What it does for them should be number one, but if they don't like it and they don't eat it, it doesn't matter. So I would say making the mush attractive to the puppies is number one. Making sure it's a good balanced formula, recipe of nutrients and calories and everything they need is number two, I guess. So now if you want to take this mush to the next level, an advanced mush, you can add probiotics. You can add probiotics by adding non-flavored Greek yogurt. That's going to give the puppies the probiotics to make sure their gut is healthy. And if your puppies happen to be on antibiotics, if you got them on Clavamox, maybe you had some upper respiratory going on, which is very common in puppies when you get the sniffles and the runny noses. That can happen. Probably happens to maybe 1 out of 5 litters. You get a little bit of upper respiratory stuff going on. So you got to hit them with some Clavamox. If you got those puppies on Clavamox, you're going to want to put them on a probiotic. Anytime you have your dogs on an antibiotic, you should also have them on a probiotic. Fortiflora is a great probiotic. and it comes in these little packets. So you can mix one of these packets or 2 or 3 of these packets into your mush. Or what I tend to do is I make my mush in the batch, I serve it a tray at a time, and when I make my tray of mush, I normally like to do my probiotics each day, each serving, over that batch of mush. That way I get a whole packet of the probiotics into the mush for each serving. Like I said, if you don't have Fortiflora on hand, some yogurt, non-flavored. Greek yogurt is the best, it has more cultures, and that is really good for probiotics. Now, if you are worried about your puppies gaining weight, maybe they haven't been feeding on the mom, or for whatever reason, you want them to have more calories, there's things you can add. There's calorie supplements you can add, like a nutritional calorie gel, like a NutriCal gel, or like Dine, or Liquid Gold. Got some of that right here. This is Liquid Gold. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Dine. Dine's been around forever. And then NutriCal gels. I have that inside of my whelping room, but that's also easy to find. So you can add however much you feel like to add. Again, I'm not going to give you an exact amount. That's for you to figure out as you're the one looking at your puppies. You're the one that knows how many puppies you have. You're the one that knows how much they need. That answer's inside of you. You don't expect to get that answer from me. Just add some of it. You'll figure it out. I got confidence in you. All right, so we got our puppy mush made. We got a batch of it made. Right now I have 3 puppies in this litter. So I'm gonna do 3 scoops. They are about 6 weeks now. I think they just turned 6 weeks on Tuesday. So a little over 6 weeks. So they're eating pretty good. If this is your first mush feeding, you're probably gonna want a smaller scoop than that. Like I said, these puppies are about 6.5 weeks and they've been eating the food pretty good. I put a lot in there on the last feeding and they seem to take it good. I don't see a lot of poop, so I'm gonna give them a nice big scoop this time. And there we have our puppy mush. I feed my puppies once a day. I put the tray in there in the morning. People always ask me, how much do you feed your puppies? I don't know, I feed them a scoop. If they eat the scoop and if they don't finish the whole scoop, then I'm gonna feed them less next time. If they eat it all, but they're pooping like crazy and their bellies are huge, you know what? Maybe I'll cut it back. Maybe I gave them too much. Because puppies will eat, some puppies will eat as much as you give them. Just because the puppies are eating it doesn't mean they need that amount. So you want to watch about overfeeding. And how can you figure out if you're overfeeding? Because there's just going to be an insane amount of poop. If there's just way too much poop and then puppies are just super fat, cut back on how much you're feeding them. Like I said, make sure you warm it up every time after you take it out of the fridge. Store it in the fridge in between feedings. Make sure it's warm when it's served. You don't want to serve cold mush to your puppies, so make sure it's warm. You got to do that before putting it in your tray, because you're not going to put this tray in the microwave. So make sure you're putting your mush on a paper plate or another container, heating it up in the microwave. Or if you're against microwaves, take your mush and then make a fresh batch of really warm puppy formula and mix in that hot puppy formula to bring the temperature up of the mush. So I hope this helped you out, and I invite you guys to go check out the Advanced Breeders Network that I just launched. This is going to be our first big video on the YouTube, so please hit that like button for me, drop a comment, share it to a friend. We're going to get this YouTube cranking. I'm going to be doing podcasts with other real top breeders, lifestyle breeders, raw, authentic interviews that are going to be packed full of knowledge, along with teaching you advanced techniques and recipes like this that are going to help you make sure your puppies thrive and not just survive. So thanks for watching this video, and before you go check out the ABN Pro Breeder Bundle that I just launched, and I'll see you guys next time.
The ABN Pro Breeder Bundle will give you access to our virtual whelping guide, our puppy medical guide, and give you the opportunity to book a one-on-one consultation with one of our expert breeders. But that's not it. You even receive $175 in breeder supplies, so you're prepared for that next litter. This is a limited time opportunity, so don't miss out.